Tonight, in this edition of the primetime newscast on Equinoxe television, the CPP party headquarters here in the country's economic capital, Douala, surrounded by security forces after a planned meeting was simply nullified by the divisional officer for the Douala 1 subdivision, Jean-Marie Chakwi. In this edition of the news, we tell you how officials of the party of Edith Kawangwala have said that they are not going to be intimidated. Also in this edition of the news, 20 opposition political parties say yes to the candidacy of President Paul Biya. Plus, we bring to you updates from the elections governing body office ELECAM in the nation's capital Yaoundé to talk about the 28 files that have so far been submitted ahead of the 7th of October presidential election in the country. Those are our headlines. We shall be right back with the details. Stay with us. Good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you so much for joining us in this edition of the primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. Let's begin right to in politics here in the country's economic capital, Douala, the headquarters of the Cameroon People's Party that was a no-go area this morning, as over 30 gendarmes and police officers surrounded the building that is at the Bali neighborhood in the city of Douala. The militarization of the CPP head office was to prevent the party from holding a press conference, which was to focus on the Stand Up for Cameroon and Cameroon Patriotic Diaspora Alliance. Party members could not have access into their offices, and the press was simply restricted from taking images. A release circulating on social media indicated that the meeting was simply banned by the divisional officer for the Douala 1 subdivision, Jean-Marie Chakwi, but CPP party officials are of the opinion that it is linked or connected to the decision Wednesday by the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Latanganji, who said that Kawala had no power or has no power to speak on behalf of the CPP political party. He simply appointed or recognized Tita Samuel Fon as leader of the Cameroon People's Party. The CPP has said that they are not going to succumb to the intimidation from the government of Cameroon. We, of course, will be telling you more on that in our subsequent newscast. The 18-man team of the electoral board in the country have started scrutinizing the files of the 28 candidates to run for the 2018 presidential election in Cameroon. The ELECAM board members who began meeting today for the exercise have 10 days to forward their report to the Constitutional Council in the country. Eno Abrams Egbe, the chairman of the board of directors at the elections governing body, has said that the procedure is going to be objective and transparent. Let's hear him in the following excerpt. He was speaking to our reporter Ike Severin.
We are holding the board meeting for the full session of right. This session is statutory. It tends to examine all the candidatures that were put in place. Here we have to have 28. So we're going to work for the next 10 days to screen them and examine them and get the best possible choices that are going to stand for the presidential election. This is the news for today. We have 10 days to examine these files, and we are hopeful that before the 10th day we would have done everything and give the Cameroon public the candidatures that are going to stand for presidential election 2018.
And the ELECAM board members are meeting a day after the deadline to submit candidacy files across the national territory. It ended at midnight. That was yesterday, and even the last candidate who showed up, Olivier Billet of the UPF political party or the UFE political party, said that he went to the National Treasury to at exactly 10 p.m. that was yesterday evening, but could not deposit his caution fee. ELECAM officials say that they have no power to receive the document after deadline. The general manager of the elections Cameroon, Eric Esuse, told journalists that 28 candidates have so far filed their candidacy or deposited their candidacy files at elections Cameroon, and 22 of them are political parties or they are belonging to political parties, and 6 are simply independent candidates. Let's hear him in the following excerpt.
We have totally 28 candidates, 22 political parties, and 6 independent candidates. Now that we have ended that job, now we are going to transmit the files to the electoral board to continue the examination of files.
One of the candidates, specifically Mr. Olivier Billet, complained of the fact that the treasury was not open when he had to go and deposit his caution. He said he was to ask you, are you going to allow him to bring the receipt tomorrow? That's what
this is not our job. Our job is to receive the file only. When we have not to deal with a question of treasure. This is another aspect.
How can you evaluate the process so far?
But the process was very good, and I think that we have done a good job, and now we are, as I have said, we are going to transmit the file to electoral board to continue the examination of the file, and you had to wait for the next capacity of electoral board. Thank you.
And we now talk about some candidates that actually deposited their files at Elections Cameroon yesterday, such as Pomatom of the PUS political party and Olivier Billet of the UFP party reacted after depositing their candidacy files at Elections Cameroon. Let's hear them in the following excerpt. And we come back to the excerpts or the reactions of such as Pomatom and Olivier Billet. They were speaking to Equinoxe television in Yaoundé.
I have to say that I'm very happy with what I have seen today in Elekam. I have discussed with many members of the staff of Elekam, and what I feel is that people are in good spirit and they are ready to work for the nation. So I want to invite all Cameroonians actually to be ready to act, to not say things, we know how things will be doing. No, we have to say, if we want to build this nation, if we want to build this country, everyone have to act. An act means that we have to vote. We are in the country, we have to have a new face, and thus one of the new faces that we have to have is the face of Serge Espoir Matomba, and in the face of many others Cameroonians. So I invite you people to vote Serge Espoir Matomba, who is the person who have presently the best offer, a political offer to change life of many Cameroonians.
We have managed to have all the elements of the file, and the Elekam personnel has received us. Let's say I came here around at 11 p.m. and everything was ready. The last element, the last part we had to make available is the caution. And my team went at the treasury to get it. But the thing that makes me a little bit sad is that nobody was there. The personnel in charge of delivering those that caution there were not at service. They were all of them went back home. So I just want you journalists to be aware of the situation which is happening, which you have been faced to, and I want to believe that the Elekam personnel and the general manager will take the appropriate measures.
And what are the peculiarities of the list of 28? It should be noted that some are coming in for the first time, while some party officials that declared their plans to run for post of president during the 7th of October 2018 presidential election in Cameroon are simply nowhere to be found. Let's have the details with our reporter, Smartin Jikan Gabriel.
Out of the 28 presidential candidates confirmed by Elections Cameroon, Elekam, on the deadline day, many are those who will be making their entrance into the political limelight of Cameroon for the first time. Within the 28, 4 are old names: incumbent President Paul Biya, Billet Olivier Anisse, Adamundam Joya, and Gaga Haman. The rest are new persons, and curiously is the presence of a man of God, Ntifo Afangwe Franklin, known generally as Prophet Frank, the shepherd of the Kinship Church, becomes the first servant of God to show interest on the politics of Cameroon. Others like Muna Akere Tambeng, Etonde Jean-Patrice, Jean-Blaise Gouet, Libby Lingenge Cabral, Matomba Serge, and Maurice Kamto are some of the newcomers into the presidential race. Just like in the last presidential elections that took place in 2011, 2 women will be trying their luck as they also drop their candidatures. While Zé Amvene Geneviève will be running as an independent candidate, Habiba Issa will be under the UPC party. Shockingly enough was the absence of the name of Jean-Jacques Ekinde, even though he had earlier declared his intentions to stand as candidate. For now, no reasons have been forwarded by Jean-Jacques Ekinde's party. August 8, 2018 will definitely be the day for all to know those who are free to challenge the incumbent Paul Biya.
Few days ago, we told you about the burning of some gadgets belonging to the Cameroon Renaissance Movement Party in the far north region of the country that was highly criticized by Cameroonians at home and abroad. It should be noted that the party of Maurice Kamto has taken court action as a result. The CRM political party has dragged the president of the National Assembly, Kavaye Jibril, and 4 CPDM bigwigs into court. They are being accused of destruction, acts of terrorism, amongst others. Let's have the details with our reporter Armstrong Sanda for me.
The legal battle pits Cameroon Renaissance Movement Party against Kavaye Jibril and other CPDM party bigwigs from the far north region of Cameroon. The CRM party, in a complaint filed at the military court in Yaoundé, accused Kavaye Jibril, Monuna Fosu, Yauba Abdullahi, Dr. Tiger and Adum Gargoum of destruction, acts of terrorism, among others. According to the CRM party, the aforementioned officials of the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement (CPDM) supervised the burning of their party gadgets in the far north region on Saturday, the 14th of July 2018, an act which they see as a means to intimidate their party supporters in the far north. Barrister Sim Emmanuel, CRM party lawyer who doubles as second vice president of the party, says these acts were premeditated by House Speaker Honorable Kavaye Jibril during several meetings of the CPDM. He highlighted the fact that these acts are punishable by the Penal Code and the Terrorism Law of the 23rd of December 2014. As of this moment, there hasn't been any reaction from the Yaoundé military court concerning the issue, nor that of the accused.
That is for me, Sanda. They're reporting now 20 opposition political party leaders took many by surprise today in the nation's capital and announced their total support to the CPDM candidate during the 2018 presidential election, Paul Biya. In a press conference today in the nation's capital, the opposition party leaders say that it is risky and delicate for another leader to take over power. They qualified President Paul Biya as the only leader capable of resolving or addressing the current socio-political crisis rocking Cameroon. Amongst them were Tita Samuel, Bapoli Pot of the CPP and UPC parties respectively, the various leaders that have so far been recognized by the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paula Tanganji. Present at the Yaoundé meeting were Jean de Dieu Momo of the PADEC party, Fozo Isaac. Fozo Isaac is one of the persons or the party officials that has actually filed his candidacy documents at the elections governing body office in Yaoundé. There was equally Fricksingo. We obviously will be telling you more of that in a subsequent newscast. Now we talk about something else. The Grandmaster of the Sovereign Military Order of Malta that has rounded up his official visit to the countries, and he ended his visit that was at the St. John of Malta Hospital in Jombe of the littoral region of Cameroon yesterday. Babla Jonathan was there. He tells us more in the following report.
His Most Eminent Highness the Prince and Grandmaster Fra Giacomo Dalla Torre del Tempio di Sanguineto of the Sovereign Military Order of Malta landed in Jombe in the littoral region of Cameroon in an helicopter for the last lap of his visit to President Paul Biya's country.
When he was elected last May, His Excellency President Biya sent a message of congratulations and asked him to come. And so He came because he wanted to know the situation of Cameroon on healthcare, on the social care.
At the St. John of Malta Hospital of Njombe, he preached love and goodness towards one another. In the same vein, Cameroon's Public Health Minister Andre Mamafuda announced government's plan to disperse 765 million francs CFA for the putting in place of a modern child department to upgrade healthcare services offered by the health amenity.
Les coûts sont modestes, mais la population aujourd'hui étant très pauvre.
The mayor of Njombe Penja, Nkahak Jean-Pierre, who said inhabitants of the municipality are poor, called for a reduction of the cost of treatment in the St. John of Malta Hospital in a bid to meet the people's low purchasing power. The Sovereign Military Order of Malta is carrying out its activities across the world.
We're talking about a subject of public international law, which has the prerogatives of the state, but which is also a religious Catholic institution. Our duty and our service has been to serve the poor and the sick, and for this for over 900 years.
Members of the association dismiss all evil attributed to the Order of Malta.
Many people sometimes attribute it to some kind of occultic kind of practices.
No, not at all.
Has it got anything to do with that?
No, not at all. It's an institution which is over 900 years old. It is highly protected by the Holy See.
The Sovereign Military Order of Malta was founded in the 11th century as a monastic community inspired by St. John the Baptist and His Most Eminent Highness, the Prince and Grandmaster, Fra Giacomo dalla Torre del Tempio di Sanguineto, is the 80th Grandmaster of the Order.
And we now talk about the President of the Republic of Cameroon that has signed 3 decrees today appointing secretaries and general manager in state institutions in Cameroon. Gumbe Zakari has been appointed Secretary General at the Economic and Social Council in another decree signed today as well. Fizu Kuma has been appointed General Manager of the Company for the Expansion and Modernization of Rice Production in Yagua. The 3rd decree today has appointed Secretary General or Secretaries General of 17 or close to 20 ministerial departments in the country. We have Felix Zogo as the Secretary General at the Ministry of Communication in Cameroon, Fu Jonathan in the Ministry of Mines, Industry and Technological Development, Vondo Na Patrick is at the Ministry or Secretary General at the Ministry of Agriculture. We now talk sports or something else, rather culture. The 9th edition of the Cameroon Festival of Arts and Culture that took place in Betua, Cameroon, witnessed the participation of some 58 divisions across the national territory. They were laying emphasis on the values of living together. Let's have the details with Franklin Mwabe.
Cameroon, a melting pot of culture in Africa, with about 200 tribes, is an epitome of cultural diversity and riches. The Cameroon Festival of Arts and Culture, FENAC 2018, happened in Betua, the eastern part of Cameroon. Under the theme Promote Cultural Diversity and Identity of National Unity. Present at the festival were all 200 tribes in Cameroon from the 58 divisions to showcase their different traditional heritage and Cameroon's unity in diversity amidst the problem of living together. Betua is a cosmopolitan city where living together is real and evident. We all know the situation we are going through today in terms of living as one. Organizing FENAC in Betua is a way for us men of culture to participate in saying Cameroon is one and indivisible. Evident in the festival was the showcase of the different traditions, the display of cultural beauty and riches through participating in songs and dance. The people of Betua, who have been dreaming of this melange of diverse cultural display, rejoiced at the sight. We have been waiting for FENAC in the East region for the past 30 years. The head of state has decided to organize it here this year. We are just rejoicing. This is cultural diversity. The festival that began on Monday was launched by Prime Minister Philemon Yang. the embodiment of different cultures in Cameroon under the canopy of Cameroon Festival of Arts and Culture FENAC 2018 ends today with its experience engraved in the hearts of the people of the East.
And that brings us to the end of this first segment of the news. Time for us to meet our guest. We shall be right back. Tonight we are being joined by a Muslim scholar who is coming all the way from the northwest region of Cameroon, Mr. Abdul Karim Ali. Good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Talking Point.
Good evening, ma'am, and thanks for having me.
A lot is happening in the political scene in Cameroon. Before we talk about that, you traveled all the way from Bamenda, northwest region of the country where you are living. What is the atmosphere now?
All right, let me begin by praising God and ask Him to send His blessings upon His prophet and to righteous men and women who've lived, and to you here at Equinoxe and to everyone. Oh yeah, the atmosphere is horrible. We are somewhere in the mid-80s, you could say Vietnam. Yeah, we're used to bullets nowadays, and our brothers and sisters die by the day. It's no more news when you don't see your neighbor because they are either exiled or dead somewhere or in jail. So it's a pretty bad atmosphere.
And how is the northwest region of the country with the political event, the upcoming political event at hand? I'm talking about the presidential election. How are ELECAM officials and political parties mobilizing in the northwest region of the country?
All right, I'll say this about minors mobilization. Who want to mobilize in such an environment? The thing is, we talk about freedom of speech, but in a country where the voice of the people don't count in the governance of the country, then you can annul totally what you call freedom of speech. And without all these considerations, you cannot talk about elections. We have, according to the report Barrister Bala gave during his award at South Africa, we have more than 50,000 today as refugees. We have 200,000 internally displaced. We have more than 5,000 in the jails, and then we have 1,500 detained in places we don't know. Count this number and tell me how many people you have. Who is supposed to vote? These people. And who is supposed to be voting alongside these people? Their brothers. Their brothers and sisters who are not in exile, who are not in bushes, who are not in prison. Tell me, in all honesty, who is going to vote in such atmosphere? And the big question is, what are we voting for?
So how are you foreseeing the political environment in the coming days?
Well, it's getting hostile by the day. It's a very stubborn country, and we don't learn. When you take stock of what has been happening in the world, you realize that war has never solved any problems. The Americans, they thought they were going to crush terrorism with their grand scheme of war. They went to Afghanistan after 9/11, blazing with fire and arms and ammunition. What has that got us to? Before 2002, there hasn't been a single suicide bombing in in Afghanistan. In between 2002 to 2014, we've had 1,892 suicide bombings, killing over 20,000 people. America spent $4.4 trillion in this war. And what has this brought? What has this brought? Nothing. We have the case of Pakistan, Nigeria, Yemen, Syria, and even Cameroon in the far north. War does not solve terrorism, and it's not going to solve in this case. I just gave some figures that Barrister Bala gave with regards to the southern Cameroonians. It keeps growing. The more you kill, the more you radicalize. When we started, we were hearing of one self-defense group. Today, when you go on social media, you have thousands of them displaying at different levels uncontrollable. This is what bullets from barrels of guns bring. So it goes without saying that the political atmosphere, if you want to call it the political atmosphere, is fine, but I say the war zone. There's no politics going on in
that it will certainly be a very hostile environment.
No, it is a very hostile environment. It is. It is for everyone.
Especially those who hail from the northwest and the southwest regions taking part in the election.
I think it's a very bad call for them. It is. It's a hostile environment for children, for infants. Yesterday, a young girl of 24 was shot. It's hostile for everyone, and for the politicians, it's even very dangerous because, in all honesty, what politics are we talking now? Is it really partisan politics, or it's real politics? Absolutely, it's partisan politics, because the constitution of this country, the administration of this country, the education of this country, the mindset of the individuals that are at the helm of decision making has been tailored not to serve the people, but to serve a dirty, stinky constitution.
Talking about the kind of politics that is practiced in Cameroon, we obviously will be talking about the 20 opposition party leaders that have taken many by surprise, announcing their total support for the CPDM candidate Paul Biya. But talking about the situation in the Northwest and the Southwest, as a Muslim scholar, what is the proposal or recommendations that you are giving? You who hails from that part of the country. What could be the solutions that you're proposing as a Muslim scholar?
All right, okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Let me begin by saying what the Quran says in this case. The Quran makes it clear that we should follow God, follow His prophets, and of course follow those that are in authority. That's Quran chapter 4 verse 59. But it continues to say that if those in authority do not agree on a matter, for example, Southern Cameroonians are not okay with what is going on in this country. If those in authorities are not in accordance with the matter, get back to what Allah has said, that is God, and what the prophets have said. Cameroon has to understand that. And what does the Quran say very clearly in the 4th chapter, verse number 135? It says that stand firm on justice, even if it means against yourself and parents. So my advice is simple, and I'm sure this country, well, is giving advice is as much as throwing water on a duck's back. It is the same. We don't solve problems like this with a gun. The president who declared his war has to call for a ceasefire, a unilateral one, demilitarize the zones. Trust me, madam, his military are worsening the situation. They don't even understand the local language, I'm talking about English language, of the people. How do you go to solve a problem to a people that you can't communicate to? You need to demilitarize the zone. He needs to say a few words only. I am sorry. Just like a very good answer to a question you don't know, I don't know. He needs to say he's sorry. He needs to release all Southern Cameroonians in the jails in Yaoundé, Douala, Boya, Bamenda, and of course he needs to grant amnesty to all Southern Cameroonians who could not come back to this country because they mentioned something about Southern Cameroon.
Those on exile.
Yes. And then of course finally he needs to go into dialogue. That is it. The Quran speaks about dialogue at very levels.
The common language used almost by all in Cameroon and abroad. Now, talking politics in the country, we have 20 opposition party leaders that say that they are supporting the head of state. What do you have to say about that? These are opposition party leaders known and recognized by Cameroonians. They say that they are standing behind the head of state or the CPDM candidate who is Paul Biya. What is your reaction? Well,
it begs the question if they were oppositions. No, I think they're not. Mr. Biya has had one opposition. Unfortunately, that opposition has been whitewashed. The only time there's been an election in this country, by my understanding and the little knowledge I have, was 10 years after he ascended onto power, 1992. And he was won by Nigel Frundi. After that, there's been no opposition.
Which was not official, of course.
So there's been no real opposition. You can see that this guy simply went for the ego of the 80 million. Is it 80 million they give them for campaign? Yeah, that is what took them there. And someone has promised them better. You can see, like the guy at CPP, you see where his energy is coming from the Minister of Territorial Administration. All this is crazy.
And some of those recognized by the minister were part of the opposition party leaders that were actually standing behind the head of state. We have Bapoli Pot of the UPC political party and Tita Samuel Fon that you are talking about as well.
Yeah, please permit me link. I hope you saw that I am not only a scholar of the Quran but that of the Bible. I'll link the answer to my question, to this question you asked me, with something Jesus Christ said in the Bible. And I'm asking all Christians, I urge all of you with strong terms to read Matthew chapter 23 verse 1 to 12, and especially the woe statement Jesus Christ gave from verse 23 of Matthew 23 to 39. I'm not going to waste time reading all of the passages. Let me go to verse 23. Yeah, verse 23 and 24. Yeah, Jesus Christ says, woe be unto the Pharisees and the scribes. The Pharisees are supposed to be like your magistrates and your parliamentarians and senators. The scribes are the teachers of the law, the lawyers. Christ says, woe be to you because you're all hypocrites. You keep talking about little things and forget the major ones. And the major one, he says, it is honesty, justice, and mercy. It is not in this country. And then it says, you hypocrite, you keep straining at the gnat and then you want to swallow the camel. It is exactly what these opposition guys are doing. They are ready to swallow the camel, but they are straining at the gnat. They have never been oppositions. It is, look, Allah says in the Quran, وَمَكَرُوا وَمَكَرَ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرُونَ, that the plan and God is the best of planner. God has exposed them to me. This is what I can say.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abdul Karim Ali, for joining us tonight on Talking Point. We hope to have you some other time again.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for your time. To our viewers, it was equally a pleasure having with us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television. We thank you so much for joining us. Up next, the continuation of the Zone 2. Stay with us.